Hello there, I am Natalie Ludwig, LCSWR, Master Practitioner of Neurolinguistic Programming, and a bunch of other great letters and certifications that you can look up on my website. So today I figured we'd address the question that I'm often asked, do my emotions and what I'm going through emotionally really impact my health, and if so, how? And how does that really relate to what it is that you do? So I figured we'd address that as quickly as we possibly can to give you an idea. So let's say you're going along and this is baseline, all right? Whatever that baseline is for you, it's baseline. And then something happens. It doesn't matter what the something is, it's something. And that something is a very charged something, which we'll call a significant emotional event. All right, so that significant emotional event, it has energy, right? And first place we experience it, otherwise known as phase 1. Okay. So we experience it in our body first. And so let's say, for example, that this significant emotional event was a sudden, unexpected sound. And you kind of go, right? So your body experiences it. And then at the moment in which you go, oh, that was the garbage truck, right? So that, oh, that was the garbage truck is this point here. And that's when you put a thought, a frame, a way of conceptualizing it around it. And at that point, it moves you into phase 2. So phase 2 is where you first have access to things like you could cry, you could scream, you could talk, you could walk, you could jog, you could go to a chiropractor, you could do acupuncture, you could meditate, pretty much anything and everything that will get that energy out. But there comes a question that the body naturally asks itself. Somewhere in the middle of this phase, it'll ask itself the question, did the energy of what was experienced here get sufficiently released here? If the answer to this question is yes, and you've done enough work here that it released what was here, then the body will continue and complete phase 2. If the answer is no, and the energy of what's here is still in your body, even though you've talked, cried, prayed, whatever you did, then the question mark is answered no, and the body will decide it's going to help you with what the body would call a healing crisis and what we would call I'm sick. So at that point, you may have a cold, you may have a migraine, you may have a pain, you may have whatever you may have, and it's the body's way of trying to get it out for you. And that's kind of what happens here. So let's just say it's a cold. Now, when you're at this point, most of us will say, oh, I have a cold, let me take Dayquil. Let me take whatever. And depending on whatever this healing crisis is, we might take a medicine. And what the medicine does is that it sort of tricks the body into thinking that it's done releasing this energy. So it essentially sends you back to the beginning of phase 2. And once again, it will go along its process and ask itself the question. So if the second time it asks the question, the energy of this has dissipated, fine, it completes phase 2, no problem. If it hasn't, this is where you're now going to have a chronic, you're constantly sick, or you constantly have a migraine, or you constantly have an asthma attack, so on and so forth. It's a chronic thing that'll keep happening because the body still thinks it's trying to help you by helping you release the energy. So that's one of the things that happens that interrupts this process. The next thing that happens is that we're talking about one significant emotional event, right? What happens when there's 2, 20, 100, 1,000, 10,000? I don't know your life, but I know that most of us have a lot of significant emotional events by the time we're even adults. And what happens is that those things, that energy, it starts to sink down into deeper layers of our body, mind, and self, otherwise known as the unconscious mind. And then when it's way down here, no matter how much crying, praying, talking, exercising you do, it may not really be reaching this layer. And that's where it can be helpful to have a professional that specifically works with the unconscious mind at pulling it out. And that's exactly where I come into the picture, or anyone that's a coach at ExodusSynergy. I hope that helps, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.